being able to retire early to amass properties in a portfolio where I can retire when I want to. I still love doing what I do. I can't really imagine not working because I'm kind of hyper. So I can't really imagine just not working. But I think there comes a point. I have seen friends who they get tired and they're, maybe they're not 65 yet, but they're tired and they want to retire. I want that option there when I decide to say I'm done, that I can be done.
You're listening to Nurses on Fire, the podcast for nurses by nurses aspiring to financial independence. I'm your host, Naseema McElroy of Financially Intentional. Let's spark some flames, y'all. Have you gone to the grocery store a million times this week and still forgot the onion? Don't trip. Instacart's got your back. Get local fresh groceries delivered right to your front door in as fast as an hour. No need to stress like I do when I send my boyfriend to the store for apples and half of them are bruised. Every item is hand selected by shoppers to your personal preference. And check this, you can shop from multiple stores in one order. Instacart also looks out for your pockets by highlighting deals to help you save money. Get unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. To start your 14-day free trial, click the link in the show notes to let Instacart know that I sent you and to help support the show.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Nurses on Fire podcast.
And if this is your first time listening, thank you so much for joining us. I would be eternally grateful if you took a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share with other nurses that you know could benefit. When you post that review, please make sure you take a screenshot and send it to Naseema at financiallyintentional.com. I'm super excited to announce that if you're listening to this in real time, happy Thanksgiving! And as of tomorrow, I will be opening up a chance to work with me. So I'm giving you guys access to my membership group that I'm just now reopening so that I can help you retire in 10 years or less. If you're interested in that, make sure you go to financiallyintentional.com/join to get on the wait list. On this episode, I have the honor of bringing you Erin Hamilton, who is a married mother of two, working as a labor and delivery nurse for the last 12 years. So Erin and her husband, Brandon, have gone through foreclosure, marital strife, and have ultimately achieved a lot of financial successes. So personal finance is Erin's hobby and passion, and Erin and Brandon plan to make smart investments today to have better options tomorrow. And I love that Erin is able to join us here because Erin has been a member of the Financially Intentional Facebook group and an awesome contributor since the very beginning. So I'm so happy that you guys get to hear her story. I know it won't disappoint. So without further ado, episode 21, this nurse is striving to make work optional. All right, Nurses on Fire community, I am super stoked to have Erin Hamilton here on the podcast because me and Erin go way back. Erin has been rocking with me since day one, and I am super excited for you to hear about her journey to financial freedom and what she's been up to. So, Erin, say hey to everybody and let us know what you're all about.
Hello, I am a registered nurse of 13 years. I live in the Sacramento area. I've been in the labor and delivery area for 12 of those years. I have 2 kids and I've been married for 14 years. And just for the last few years, gotten really passionate about budget, finance, and real estate investing.
That is awesome. Yes, and I'm excited to talk about all of those things. Erin, the first thing I want to talk about is your path to becoming a nurse, because I think that unlike me, you didn't have to go into millions of dollars in debt to do it. Let's talk about how you entered into nursing.
Well, I got really, really lucky. I always tell people I was born under a lucky star. I became a phlebotomist as a college job. I had no intention of being a nurse, I was kind of intimidated. It was something that intrigued me, but I was just nervous. So I'd actually completed all of my prereqs to be a teacher. And I got a job at a hospital that had a program where if you finished your prereqs, they would drop you into the RN program, pay for it, and hire you afterwards. And this was about 5 hospitals in the Fresno area did this, and it was called the Paradigm Program. And they all had a similar philosophy where they would put their employees through nursing school. And this could be people like nurses' aides, it could be people to answer the phone, it could be anybody, and then they would retain their employees. And so we did that, and I did an accelerated 18-month RN, and it just worked out really, really well for me to get into that and then have a job right afterwards, because I kind of got in right at the right time where there was still sort of a shortage before it turned into where you couldn't get a job as a nurse.
Man, all those things were super duper lucky, because that was around like just a couple years preceding me. And when I came out of nursing school in 2009, it was tough out in these streets to get a job. So let's talk about what inspired you to start doing better with your finances.
It was probably about I knew in 2013, we had, this is a long story, we had a foreclosure in 2009. We lost our house right in that housing crisis. It was probably right about after my daughter was born. My husband's company slashed their pays across the board like 40% overnight. I mean, we just watched the market literally tank on TV. And I had just had a baby, and it was just a really crazy time. And so we ended up foreclosing that house, and lots of hardship, after that foreclosure. And then eventually, we were able to purchase a home again. And I, blood, sweat, and tears, did overtime to buy that house. I did not borrow money from anybody, full on 22 days in a row, overtime like crazy, and bought a house that I was super proud of. It was a small house. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was something I was really proud of that I did with the support of my husband. He was also working, but on a part-time basis, and he was pretty much Mr. Mom during this time. And so bought a house. And then after that, I remember thinking, wow, I'm looking at my W-2 and I can't really even take a vacation. Like, I would look at my friends that were going to Mexico and going all these places and think, I'm looking at how much I make per year and I literally can do nothing. So I had just literally Googled what the baby steps were of Dave Ramsey, but I never actually read the book. And I just was like, okay, this is what I need to do. So that was like step one, And then about a couple years later, maybe 18 months later, then I got really serious about reading the book and getting more out of debt and not having car payments and those kind of things. And that really was a benefit to me when it came time to purchase another home and I had no other debt except a mortgage. That really helped me.
So let's rewind a little bit. And you said that you lost everything to foreclosure. How long did it take you to rebuild from that?
So we foreclosed in 2009 and we were able to purchase again in 2013. And that was, due to us, me having a job where I had a long-standing, employment with the same employer and also, having a good income and those kind of things. And there was some programs that were out there trying to get people to buy again, like, hey, we want people to buy homes again. So we're willing to try to put this out there to people. And so that was that. But as far as rebuilding, I will say, side note here, long story, after that foreclosure, we had a lot of marital strife. Financial stress is really hard on a marriage. So that was rough times up in there, rough times. But we are super blessed that we were able to kind of come out of it on the other side. But I will say, managing your finances is so critical to your mental health and your marital health, like so critical. And I really didn't realize that because I was just really young and didn't even know what I was doing. I was making enough money, but I just was not managing it correctly. So it was like not the income issue, it was an issue of money management on our end.
Thanks for sharing that, Erin, because a lot of people don't talk about the role that money has in their relationships. And it's super crucial because, we know the number one leading cause of divorce is finances, and as a society, we don't talk about it enough. And this is something that we need to talk about more. And I think it goes both ways. Like, if you're in discord with your finances, then it's going to cause strife with your partner. and especially if you guys aren't on the same page. But the opposite way, if you guys are on the same page with your finances, the things that you can do are limitless. Like there is no stopping you guys in the acceleration and where you can reach your goals. But it's super important, but people don't know how to have those money conversations. Do you remember where in your relationship that kind of shifted and you guys got better communicating about money?
Yeah, I would say, we got a really better. Truly, it hasn't been that long. Maybe it's only been truly 2 years because it was kind of a gradual process of me starting to do a written budget, starting to save money, and starting to do things like that. And we would discuss here and there. We have actual budget meetings every week that we call Sync and Slay. And so we sit down and we have what we call a weekly sync meeting. And we literally talk about all the things, whether it's scheduling. My husband's in the military. He may have to leave at any time. What does he have on deck? What's coming on that he knows about so I can plan for childcare? And then what's our plan for our finances? Are we planning a big vacation? What do we need to set aside in savings? What's going on with our savings? What purchases are we planning? And we do that on a weekly basis. And it truly has brought us closer together as a married couple. I don't think our marriage has been in this good of health in a really long time. Truly, it's made a world of difference.
I'm like, that is incredible. Like, you should patent that.
Girl, it's Sync and Slay TM
Right.
trademark.
Exactly. Thank you. Because that is crucial. I mean, and it's not just about money, it's about communicating like everything that's going on in your relationship. Because I can't tell you the number of times that I get into it just over who's going to pick up the kids and who's going to be home for the kids, But like you guys, I mean, part of it is that by necessity, you guys kind of have to figure out what to do with the kids when your husband is away. And part of it is because your husband's, employment, or what do you call the military? Is that a career? What?
That is actually his full-time job. But I think, too, it's also like, even when he's home and it's like, okay, what's our plan? Let's say he's going to be home for a week or whatever. And his job is typically local, not always, but most of the time in the local-ish area. But it's like, you want to be able to sit down and say, what's your plan for your finances? What are we doing? Are we having a family get together? And, he's really plugged in on that. Like he might be home and, he'll forego sleep to take the kids to school to, really be plugged in and engaged as a partner. And for me, that's crucial. Like we're, out here, we've been talking about investing in real estate for years. And honestly, I'm like the play it safe girl. Like don't do anything risky. It's going to, my husband is like, driver personality. You give him 1% of the information, he's ready to pull the trigger right now. Like bam. And I'm like, I need to do all the research, like up, down, and all the way around. And so, we've been able to really come together and make this work for us, especially with real estate, because I want the option to maybe not work till I'm 65,
So let's talk about your real estate journey that you've been on lately.
So the first thing that happened was, we lived in a home that was just a regular home right outside of Modesto, and we loved it. It was great. It was great little area. And I probably, had a very little comfortable mortgage there, and it was great, except my husband was working really far away from us and not seeing the kids. And so we made a decision to move closer to his employment. And that's fine because, as a nurse, you can just work anywhere, which is great about that profession. So I said, okay, let's do that. But then when we got up here to the Sacramento area, the prices were, kind of high. And I thought, if I'm going to spend over a certain amount, how can I maximize, my opportunity here? So we decided to buy something that had a mother-in-law's quarters, and that was crucial. So I did that because I was like, I can buy a regular house for the same price, or I can buy this and then rent that out. And then, my mortgage is way less. And so I bought the house and I closed on January 6th of this year. And I already had a renter in that apartment before I got keys to this house. I already had someone who had given me a deposit on it before I got keys to this house.
So walk me through that a little bit. Like when you decided to buy this house, did you already have in mind how much you were going to charge somebody for rent? Did you already know where to look for the person to rent it out? Like walk me through that.
So really what I had heard, and you may know this, is for many years we've had travel nurses off and on at the hospital, and they'll tell us their woes of where they're living. And sometimes it's like horrific conditions, like bad areas of town, sketchy people. And I thought, my husband and I are both background checked individuals for our employment. And I thought, we're safe people to live with. We are already background checked for them to feel comfortable. And also, as nurses, if you're renting to another nurse to work in the state of California, you also have to be background checked. So it's not like some axe murder off the street. So what I did was I started stalking the Facebook pages of travel nurse housing and looking at what they were charging and asking people that, I worked with, what are they charging you and what are you getting for that amount? Is it all inclusive? Do you have parking? Do you have utilities included? Do you have Wi-Fi? And I started kind of just compiling this information that was pretty easy to get in our industry. And I kind of came up with my pricing, and it worked out really well for us because I was able to get a renter right away, and they needed housing and I had it and it was clean and it was safe and it was, perfect little fit for us.
Yes, and I love it. And I love that you looked at buying your house as an investment, your primary residence as an investment. And that's what most people don't do nowadays. And most people think that they're looking at it as an investment, but unless you can look at it as it's bringing you returns in some kind of way, it's not an investment. But, we're sold on this American dream, like, oh, owning a home and all this kind of stuff, but we don't do the calculations around it. So I love that you were like, this is going to be expensive. Is way more than we used to spend in Modesto. Like, we have to look at this strategically. And you were just like, yep, we're about to rent this out. And you have a new construction, right? Or a newer home.
Yes.
And so a lot of these newer homes that they're building are multi-generational just because of the housing prices, especially in the Bay Area. It's like we have to combine generations in order to be able to afford housing. And so you have extra space in your home, which you can rent out. And you looked at it like, and you said the prices aren't even that different, between just a regular single family house and a multi-generational house, right?
No, correct. I had a girlfriend who bought a house for the same exact price. She was in another neighborhood that was an older home that was an established neighborhood, but spent the same amount of money for a home that was not multi-generational, did not have a mother-in-law's quarters or anything like that, and spent the exact same amount I did. So I was like, this is the way to go. And there's a lot of options. I mean, when my kids grow up, let's say 10 years from now, they're out of the house, and then I move into the apartment and I rent out the whole entire house to somebody else. And I'm the landlord living in the small part and they're renting the big part, Or I use this mother-in-law's quarters for my parents who are aging at some point. They're still very independent, but I'm not a fan of, putting my parents in a nursing home. So I'm like, this is an option for me, and to give them, my parents have done so much for me, and my dad has actually helped me fix up another property that I purchased this year. So I purchased another property in August, and my dad was crucial in helping me fix that. So, I got to pay it forward and house them as they get older. But now I have this in place where I don't need to go drive all over town and see them. They're right at my house when I need them to be.
That's awesome. So what's going on with this other property? Is it just a straight up rental?
It is a straight rental. It's a condo. I grew up in the Fresno area. That's where I went to nursing school, Fresno City College. So my parents live in Fresno still, and there was a condo that was priced under value in their complex. And it was the biggest model that they make. And I thought, you know what? It was probably about $25,000 under value. It needed a little bit of work, but it was very little work. It needed like new appliances and like touch-up paint and little things and a few little carpentry things. And my dad is like handyman by trade. He's newly retired and grew up on a ranch, oldest of 5 boys. So he installed all of my appliances for me in there and got it all ready to go. And I also had a renter in that house before I ever had keys to it. And that just happened to be another lucky star moment for me.
Oh, wow. Was it another nurse, or how did you find this tenant?
No, actually, one of my friends from high school was moving back to the area and is a newlywed and needed somewhere to live. He's had a career in the military and is now out doing other things like entrepreneurial type things, and needed to get back into a rental. And, and he put out there on Facebook, hey, does anyone have anything? And, social media is just a great area to find your renters. I found actually all of my renters on social media. And so anyway, and got in touch with him, said, hey, I'm going to have this. He's familiar with my family because we grew up in the same town and knows them. And so it works out perfectly. My parents live in the same complex, so they actually manage the property for me. So I'm not paying for a handyman. I'm not paying for property management. there's an HOA that takes care of a lot of the big things, but anything that's little, my dad's done all the little electrical things, carpentry, installed all my appliances for me. And so I've had that all done, at basically free. I just have to buy the stuff and he takes care of it. So it's been a big blessing for us. And we just got that late August this year.
Oh my God, that is so awesome. I love it. And do you plan on doing any more real estate investing?
I do. I just went out of state and I just looked at real estate in Idaho like 2 weeks ago. So we're actually considering a few other states, want to branch out and just get a little more diverse in our portfolio. So I'm considering a few other states right now. And I'm actually also considering Mexico. We've been on vacation there, and we've also looked at real estate there as like a Airbnb type situation where you buy in a really popular, tourist area. So looking at areas like Idaho, Nevada, and also Mexico. And I actually have a brother in Pennsylvania, and the area outside Philadelphia is another area I'm contemplating as well.
That is awesome. So you are debt-free outside of your mortgages, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. How do you feel like that plays a role in you achieving financial freedom?
Well, you have a lot more, leverage because you're not bound down by these other debts. You don't have credit card debt where a lender is going to tell you can't borrow because you have these other things. And it also makes it easier to save for things like down payments or, if you want to take a vacation, because that was actually a breaking point for me was when I felt like I couldn't even take a vacation and I was clearing $130K a year, and at some years $150K, and not able to take a vacation. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So being able to sit down and really budget your money and say what's important to me, and having real estate is important to me, what am I willing to forego at this point? So I don't need to have, the nicest, newest clothes. I don't need to have the nicest, newest cars, but I do want to be able to, be able to buy a condo when I see it. And so that has played a huge role in me budgeting and being more financially, intentional, truly. That's your tagline, but being intentional with your money.
Right. Just to dive a little bit deeper into like your investment philosophy as far as like real estate, are you just doing buy and hold, a single family, and just doing straight up 20-30% down? How are you doing your investing?
So I am doing, buy and hold real estate. I'm not a flipper. That's something that I don't think I want to get into. There are some people that are very successful with that, but it is a risky business. So I'm just doing buy and hold, 20% down on most of my investments. Some of mine I do not have 20% down on. My last one I did have 20% down. But anyway, that is definitely the plan, is buy and hold, because, real estate, definitely your ability to, grow your money over time is there. So if you hang on to it, it's kind of like that compound interest idea. You just leave it alone and don't start messing with it. And then, 20 years from now, you can sell it and make a lot of money if you need to.
Yes. And another thing is that, especially if you're on the path to retire early, instead of having to wait until you can tap into your retirement accounts or draw down from your less liquid investment accounts, you get monthly income from your rent. And so you can build a portfolio that just covers your expenses with your rent. So I think that that's a genius strategy. I love it.
Yeah, that is definitely a big part of it, of being able to retire early, to amass properties in a portfolio where I can retire when I want to. I still love doing what I do. I can't really imagine not working because I'm kind of hyper. So I can't really imagine just not working. But I think there comes a point. I have seen friends who they get tired and they're, maybe they're not 65 yet, but they're tired and they want to retire. I want that option there when I decide to say I'm done, that I can be done.
But Erin, I think let's just like going back into our roles as nurses, and we're both L&D nurses. And I often say that I could probably do my job, just a 24-hour shift a week, 2 days a week, give up, some shifts to the newbies every once in a while, but just to have those benefits and just be able to do the job that we both love. Our jobs, like our jobs are super rewarding. Just delivering these babies and taking care of these moms is a super rewarding job. I often say I can do that forever. And you are super blessed, like you said, to have that 24-hour shift already. Can you talk about that and having that flexibility and having the flexibility to scale up when you want to, but also just what other benefits you've had just in being a nurse that has helped you on your path to financial independence?
So I definitely think that the ability to be, in California, what we would be considered, high paid nurses in the nation. And so definitely having that ability. And then when you like put your eye on something, I'm like really an odd duck over here. So I'll go full on, 24 hours a week. They offer low census. I'll just stay home, and then I'll get wild and I'll be like 10 days in a row, 12 days in a row, 20 days in a row, 12-hour shifts, double shifts. So when you decide, you want to do something, then, if the hours are there, you can definitely scale up. And I think, it's kind of like the job that keeps giving, right? So you get these patients, and I mean, not every day is like this, but you get someone who you're just really bonded to. You get to be part of these amazing deliveries, and then it just continues to feed you almost like that, that high that you get from just loving your job. And so if you have those kind of days, it makes it much easier to stay over. Like if they say, hey, do you want to stay over? And you really want to see your patient deliver, you're like, yeah, I want to stay. I want to be here. And so that really it makes it go full circle of obviously you're gaining income, but you're getting to really, stay in your practice. You know what I mean? Stay in your practice and not just, oh, I'm earning money, but I'm loving what I do while I do it. So that's a plus. But having the flexibility is crucial, because then, on my days off, I can just be mom. I have 6 days in a row off every other week. So I can just be mom. I can go, clean the house, go grocery shopping, and then work on what I do at home. So I can be, busting out my calendar, talking to real estate agents, working on my finances, doing my written budget, having my, sync meetings with my husband, and just really out there tearing it up on my days off, and then be fully committed when I go back, because I have that downtime. And I pretty much do a lot of planning on my days off. So like if I know I'm going to go to work and I'm really planning on being there a lot of hours, on my days off, I will do like all my laundry, all my meal prep, all my stuff, so that I am ready to go when I go to work.
That is super important. Also, along with the salaries that we get being nurses in Northern California, talk about some of the benefits that you've been able to partake in.
So I am, again, super blessed, born under a lucky star, I tell people all the time, and my health care is covered by my employer. So at this point, I'm just paying for co-pays and stuff, and I've had, major surgery, I've had babies, all covered by my employer, and I'm just, paying for the co-pay. So I'm very, very blessed to have that. And then I also have a 401k with my employer. It's not maybe as lucrative as other people, but it's a good thing to have. I have a pension, and I also have a 401k with the employer. So, that when you get older, you're really wanting to secure your future with those things. And outside of my employer, I have, IRA accounts. But, those are things you want to have. You have your insurance, you have your pension, you have your 401k. You really want to be planning out your future when you're young, not waiting till the last minute to do it. And healthcare is crucial. It's one of the biggest things going on in our country right now. And so having healthcare with your employer that's covered is like major deal right here.
Yeah, I took that for granted, and until I, was dependent on my partner's health insurance when I moved to Reno, and I was like, "Oh no, honey, $1,600 a month for what? For crappy coverage? No, never again." I was like, we are so spoiled as nurses. And this is like in education where they don't make as much as we do, but they have to pay substantially more into their health care. Most people do.
Yeah, no, most people do. And so we're very blessed. So I, really try to just keep that at the forefront of like, we're blessed to do what we do. Not every day is perfect, but, you really look at the whole big picture of what I have as a nurse and what I get to do. And it's amazing. And so I try to just keep that at the forefront of, okay, you are really setting up your future and you're lucky to have what you have. So I try to like really keep that in your mind, because the world is always around, with this and that, and things aren't perfect and nothing is perfect. You know what I mean? So I try to just really stay balanced on that, because I'm one of those people that's like, look on the bright side of life most of the time. And I think that benefits me, because it's like, if you focus on the negative, it's going to seem negative. If you focus on the positive of this is all the things I have and this is where I'm at, it's going to be good. So I really try not to let myself get negative too often, because I feel like it's not serving me any purpose.
Right. But let's address some of the negativity that certain people have when they say, oh, Erin can do this because she's a nurse in California and she makes this amount of money. Or Naseema can do this because, oh, she had that house to sell, but I can't do that because I have to pay, for childcare. Or they make up all these excuses. What were some of the things that you had to overcome in order to be able to make better financial decisions and to be able to be better at budgeting and spending and to know how to invest?
So I really think the written budget is crucial because true story, I have had years where I made more money than I've made in the last couple of years, where I was like overtime city. I mean, you talk about, being at work all the time. There were years that I was that person. But I tell people, if you can't manage $100, you're not going to manage $100,000 because I literally was not managing my money at that point. When I look back on that and think how much money could I have saved at that time, I'm a little bit like, disgusted with myself, but I try not to stay there because, don't look in the past because you're not going back there, right? Stay there for a moment and then, make better decisions in the future. But if you can't manage $100, you're not going to manage 100 grand. You know what I mean? So I tell people all the time, I've made more money than I make now, but if you don't manage it, it doesn't matter how much you make because you won't manage it better. So doing a written budget is
Yeah, and that's why I
critical.
tell people, I'm like, yeah, I've been making six figures for a long time, but it didn't mean anything because I don't remember where that money went. I don't know what I spent that money on because
No.
I just, when you don't have a plan for something, when you aim at nothing, you hit it every time, right? It's just like, like, I don't know, like, but
Yeah.
everybody thinks like, oh, once I hit this magic number, once I hit six figures, then I can do better financially. But it's not about that. It's really about what you were talking about. And you were going more into written budget. Sorry, and I cut you off. I'm known as a debt slayer because of the $200,000 in student loans I slayed in 2.5 years. I hated those loans and dealing with the loan servicers. I was head down and focused and wanted to get rid of the debt as soon as possible. Knocking out these loans and seeing a zero loan balance was one of the most liberating feelings I have ever felt. But recently I learned that by not optimizing my student loan payoff strategy, I lost money. I'm talking about big money, y'all. I could have saved $80,000 if I had a customized student loan plan by the team at Student Loan Planner. Please don't make the same mistake as me. If you have student loan debt, especially in the six figures, head over to studentloanplanner.com/financially intentional to get your customized student loan plan today. Do you know how your retirement funds are invested? Do you know how much you're paying in fees? Chances are you're on the same boat as some of my coworkers. Some of them set up their retirement when they first got hired and never looked at it again. Some have let a computer select their investments and don't even know what they're invested in. Worst of all, some people have their retirement funds sitting in a savings account and they're not even invested in the market because they're afraid to lose money. That's hella scary, y'all. What's even scarier is that some of you listening don't even have a clue what I'm talking about. And guess what? This is super common. This has to change today. Let Bloom do the work for you. Head over to financiallyintentional.com/Bloom and get your free retirement account analysis. They'll check and see if your retirement account is optimized for you, and they'll let you know if you're paying too much in fees. That's Bloom with 3 O's. Bloom can also manage your retirement account on an ongoing basis so you can take the stress out of retirement planning. If you choose to work with Bloom, their fees are incredibly low, less than your Netflix subscription. You have enough to worry about. Let Bloom handle your retirement account. The hardest thing you'll have to do when it comes to your retirement is remember that Bloom is spelled with 3 O's. Head over to financiallyintentional.com/Bloom. Remember, spelled with 3 O's, and get your retirement account squared away today.
No, that's okay. So the written budget was critical for me. I had to get into that. And then suddenly I was like, oh my, I have a lot of money that I could be saving because I'm actually making a plan. And that was critical because there has been a lot of things that have come up in the last couple of years. When we purchased this home, we actually had not yet sold our other home. But because I had a really healthy, savings account, I was able to turn around and purchase this home with the mother-in-law's quarters before I sold my other home. And I had enough credit to do it. I had, credit worthiness. I had enough money in the savings account to pull this off, which had I not been doing a written budget, that never would have happened. So that was crucial, is have that written budget, set up your savings accounts. I'm, big fan of sinking funds, huge fan, because I feel like it makes a big difference for us when we plan out our whole year and, something comes up and you have money in there because you're not on zero on your savings account.
Can you explain sinking funds?
So sinking funds are when you're planning for stuff that's going to come up but hasn't come up yet. So I use Capital One 360. It's a popular bank that's online that a lot of people use. And basically, I have a lot of funds and I have a lot of sinking funds in there. So I have funds that are like, for my pets and my vet bills because I have pets. And guess what? Something's going to happen and you're going to have to pay, for that. And it's not going to be in necessarily your plan. So you have that in there. And then I also save for things like car repairs because sometimes those, you don't know that they're going to come up and they come up. So it's pre-planned money for things that are going to come up or, at some point, maybe it's like you have your whole auto one and you're encompassing things like car tags and also car repairs and tires. And then when those things happen, you're not all shocked. I remember having to buy tires and we were newlyweds and I was like all like upset because I had to go buy new tires and like struts. And I was like, this really shouldn't be a thing. I was making plenty of money, but I just did not plan for it.
What was the turning point? Like, was it when you lost the house?
So no, shockingly, no, that should have been really losing a house should have been a major turning point, but it wasn't. If I'm being really honest, the turning point was when we purchased a home in 2013. It was literally when we went to go see a financial planner and he was kind of just not even all that. I was kind of like, you're wet behind the ears, whatever, I could do this myself. I was like, how am I not able to take a vacation? I W-2'd at over $150,000 one of those years around that time. And I'm like, how am I not able to do these basic things, that I should be able to do? We worked super hard. And I was like, I should be able to take a big vacation. And so
was it because you couldn't pay for the vacation or you couldn't take the time off because you were working?
I could have taken the time off. I had a very flexible schedule. It was that, I would have had to go into debt to do it. And I'm thinking, why should I have to go into debt to take a vacation that doesn't even seem that expensive, but I should be able to save that money. And so, my best girlfriend turned 40 a few years ago and we went to Cabo and I paid for it in cash. And, I can't remember how many extra shifts to do it. I think I worked like something like, I don't know, like 13 days in a row, to go pay for it. And it was a good feeling. You could go on vacation and not feel guilty. You were like, I have already paid for this trip. I'm going to go enjoy my best friend. And it was wonderful. I didn't have to go into debt for it. And it was actually a great feeling. And it was very freeing to say, I can go enjoy my life and not, be in debt for months on end over this.
Yeah. So now you have your investments from work, you have your rental income or your rental portfolio, which you're continuing to grow. What other things are you doing on your path to financial freedom?
So I have IRA accounts on additionally, not just, I have the work 401k, but I also have IRA account, which, because I really want to be set up. I think we look at society and we're like, where is it going wrong? And we see that, inflation, things are expensive, senior citizens are having a hard time because, life is expensive, especially in California. So IRA account, 401k account, I have 2 properties. I'm planning to purchase another property in the next, hopefully 18 months. And that's really it, is just continuing to max out, the IRA accounts and then get a real estate, property, hopefully every couple of years would be ideal. And that way, once I retire, I've amassed this portfolio and I'm able to, just have more flexibility with my options of retirement. And again, like I'm not one of those people that wants to retire like at this moment, but maybe when I'm 60, I want that option.
Right. And that was my next question. Like, when do you see yourself leaving the workforce?
I think like tentatively, maybe age 55. My husband is 10 years older, so maybe 55 if he retires at 65, but if I'm still loving it, I mean, I am not hard on that number. Like if I'm still really enjoying my work, I am not hard on that number. I think it's just about having the option, saying, maybe I feel like it at 55 and maybe I don't. I have this super flexible schedule right now, and I may still have that. I had my last schedule for 10 years. I may have this schedule for 10 years and say, this really works for me. And it keeps me, having the best of both worlds of being wife and mom and investor and also, labor and delivery nurse. Having all those options, I kind of love that, that double-sided possibility for myself.
You know what? I love that because what most people and the stories that are really touted is like people that hate their jobs and are looking for financial independence so that they don't ever have to work for anyone so they can have that FU money. But it's really not about that. It's really about options. It's really about just having work being optional. And that gives you so much power. And I really feel like it makes work that much more enjoyable because you don't have to be there. You're there because you want to be there. And when you're somewhere because you want to be there and because it's not an obligation, the way that you approach that is with so much more positivity. And I feel like it's so much more enriching to our lives. And so that's the whole goal of, the platform, especially Nurses on Fire, is to just show nurses that you don't have to grind forever because a lot of people think I'm going to have to work forever. I have to work night shift, work these salaries to keep up with this lifestyle inflation. It's not about that. It's about putting yourself in a financial position to be able to walk away or to be able to stay as long as you want and let your nest egg just build. And so I love that you have setting yourself up for multiple income streams, but you're also setting yourself up in a position where you can work as much as you want to or as little as you want to, or if you want to just walk away at 55, you'll be there. That's incredible, Erin.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the progress considering, it's been a journey. I think I really didn't get like seriously into the debt-free community until probably like 2015, 2016 at least. And then I got way more serious about it as time went on, maybe, 2017, getting really more into it. And it just was, very rewarding because like you said, you don't have to do anything, but you know that you're going to be set up and that you do things because you want to do them. You're not forced into it. You're not trying to keep up with the Joneses. You're just doing this because it's something that you actually love doing. Because I don't really want to get out of the game of nursing. I mean, I think it's, kind of almost like part of who you are as a person. And I think if I were to stop doing that, even though I love investing and I love traveling and I love all those things, I don't think I could full on quit the profession of nursing because it's something that I just really love. And so it's, good to have those options though when you get older to know that, maybe I do want to go and just go per diem. Who even knows at 55 what I'm going to do? But I think, like you said, it's like you don't have to hate work. It's like just giving yourself those options, building your nest egg, and just feeling like you have more options as your future goes on.
Right. That's all about the options. So what about your kids? What are some things that you're putting in place for your kids?
My kids have to do chores at home, period. Like they have to work. And I always tell them, I'm teaching you to work. I think we send these kids off to college and we want to send them to these like crazy 4-year universities and they can't even fry an egg. So, at home, we're building like basic life skills over here. And it's, it's cooking, it's cleaning, it's being responsible for yourself, being responsible for your sibling. So my oldest is actually very helpful with my youngest and she knows, how to fold laundry, do everything. My younger one is also learning the same things, but obviously on a lesser scale because she's younger. So my oldest can cook full meals at this point where I really don't have to do anything. And so I want them to have life skills because I think we send people out into the world and then we also talk about budgeting. And I talk very frankly with them about money. How much does this cost? And, what are you going to use it for? If you want to buy something, do you want it for 5 minutes? Do you want it for an hour? Is it really worth, getting? So we discuss that when they want to buy stuff because they do get an allowance and then I make them spend their own money on stuff. And it's a little bit more painful when you have to spend your own money instead of mommy's money on something. And so that actually works out well for them to slow down their compulsive buying habits where it's like, well, if you want to spend your own money on that, you can. And they are really quick to slow it way down when they have to spend their own money.
I love those money lessons that you share with them. And I love that they have to spend their money because it teaches them early on how to create a budget, how to focus on what their needs are versus like what their wants are. And so those are valuable lessons that, once we set ourselves up financially, a lot of times people are like, I don't want my kids to have to go through the financial struggles that we went through. But in those lessons is what makes them stronger. A lot of being a parent is about, teaching your kids how to, fail, and how to experience those things. They kind of have to go through that testimony, that story on their own in order to be, successful adults. And so I like that you are making your kids actually do things, have life skills, but also know how to manage money. How are you going about paying for their education, or do you believe in paying for their education?
So I do believe in trying to set them up for success, but I'm a product of a city college. I'm not like, you don't need to go to Ivy League school. Like, I straight went to a school in the ghetto of Fresno, and you know what? It was an amazing nursing program. I'm telling you right now, I came out of there 18 months ready to hit the floor, so ready to work. I was RTG ready to go. And so I'm not a fan of you have to go to the best school around. I do want them to be set up. So we do have 529 accounts for them, but I am, not necessarily maxing them out. I am contributing every single month. It's automatic, which that's another thing that if people want to get really, down and dirty with their budget, I highly recommend having things automatically deducted like that, because it's like, if it's automatic, there's no like, oh, I was going to contribute to your 529, but I went to Chick-fil-A. You know what I mean? Like, just have it automatically taken out. And that is, I do believe in helping your kids, but at the same time, if you want to go like be a doctor, then, you might have to take out some loans. I don't want to see my kids take out loans if they can help it. Like, my goal is like, how can we cash flow this and maybe try City College at first, because City College, community college, is now free in the state of California. So it's like, that may be an option, and I also, before I was a nurse, was a phlebotomist, and I went to what would be considered like a tech school type situation for that. And that, really, I used savings bonds from my grandparents to pay for that. I was 18 when I became a phlebotomist and used savings bonds to go to a 2-day phlebotomy course. Now, obviously, it's a lot longer now, but that was, an adult decision I made at age 18 when I could have went and, bought clothes with that money.
Right. And one thing I want to touch back on with you is that, like you say, like a community college education can be just as good as the Ivy League. Like, yes, I have all those degrees from those expensive schools along with those student loans. But guess what? Me and Erin make the same amount of money. Actually, she makes more money than me because she has more seniority than me. And so, like, just put that in perspective, because that's not a standard across every industry. But once you get into the workforce, a lot of times nobody is really going to ask you what school you went to. There might be some kind of alumni association with like Harvard and even with SC sometimes, like to get your foot in the door. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter where you came from. But in the back end, I spent like $200,000 in student loans to be in the same place that Erin spent zero money on. And so just put that into perspective when you're looking at education for your kids, especially because we are trying to keep up with the Joneses all too often. And, there's this pressure when they get into school. Oh, what school is your kid going to go to? And, oh, my kid is getting into this school. It's not about that at the end of the day, because I can look at the people that went to more prestigious schools or, even like private education, like in general. And I'm just like, how much far better off are they than me or somebody else that didn't at all?
It's totally the racket. And now I will say this, in the RN game, it's changing. Like, you kind of need your BSN now. They're getting really serious about that. So, but I would tell people, I also know people who wait for 3 years to go to, a state school, where I'm like, go ahead and get your ADN, get your associate's degree. And then there are so many programs online that you can get your bachelor's in less than a year. Like, I would not turn down an ADN slot to wait on a waiting list somewhere else. I mean, obviously, if you can get straight into a bachelor's program, that's great. But I tell people, don't like, I have some people that go, this is the only school I want to go to. So if I have to wait for 4 years, in 4 years, you could have already had your associates and your bachelor's. And you can get your bachelor's online now. There's so many options of these online schools. So it's like there's so many other options than just the traditional path people think of. And so, I was very fortunate to go to school where I did. And so my kids, I'm definitely saving, but I'm also going to tell them, look, like everybody thinks you're going to go somewhere and live in a dorm and do all this kind of stuff. And I think there's also the expectation that they have to have certain grades and things like that to make that happen. Like, I'm not going to go ahead and take out a bunch of loans for you to go to a school when I know that you're not mature enough to handle being that far away and all those kind of things. And if your grades are not such that, I think you can do it, then I'm no problem being the bad cop and laying the beat down and saying we're not doing that.
I think that that's super important. And I love that you said, like, you can get the 80 in, then go back and do your bachelor's. But I still think that there's still a lot of opportunity for people to kind of be a little bit more creative. And it's not even that hard. Like, I feel like you can still get into roles with an 80 in. You just have to build relationships. I mean, like, if you worked on the unit as a unit clerk while you're getting your AD in, that nurse manager is going to plug you for that job if you say, I'm working on my bachelor's degree while I start working. I mean, because that's all they kind of need to show. Yeah. And then most of the jobs will pay for your bachelor's degrees. So it's like,
correct.
Don't make excuses.
Yeah. And I think it's like, be willing to do what other people are not willing to do. Like, obviously when I got out of school, I worked night shift, be willing. I wanted to get into labor and delivery. And it was like, yeah, you can come here and cross train, but it's going to be on night shift. So I did it, period. Be willing to do what other people are not doing. For me, it was like, I have those opportunities and jump on them, even if it's not a popular shift. You don't have to do it forever. You get your experience, you get your foot in the door, you show that you're reliable, you show that you are dependable. And then when those other opportunities come up to maybe go to another department or do something else, you're going to have good marks from your boss. So it's going to say, yeah, you should totally take her in this other department because she is all of these things. So I'm very fortunate that my first job, at my employer was in the ER working every weekend as a phlebotomist. And I was young. I was 20 years old. So yeah, I was missing out a little bit on some weekend stuff, but I'm going to tell you, paid dividends all over the place because that is my same employer now. And I've been there 17 years and they paid, for my nursing school and they've already paid for part of my bachelor's as well.
Okay. So what we haven't talked about, and I know that you have some hacks on this, is travel hacking.
So I'm fairly new to the travel hack game, but I will tell you, I've compared prices along a lot of the websites that are Expedia, Travelocity, TripAdvisor, all those things. And I have taken 5 trips to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico in the last couple of years. And Costco Travel has beat all of those websites hands down every single time. Now, obviously, do your due diligence. But I compared them because for Costco, it was your airfare, your round trip transportation to the airport, and then also your hotel. And comparing them, whether it was me trying to book it separately, not including any of those third-party websites, using those third-party websites, or going to the hotels directly, I still could not get as good of a deal as I could get with Costco. So I highly recommend Costco Travel. But also, I have miles. I have 2 credit cards that I amass miles on. And so right now, I could go to Mexico for free if I wanted to with my miles. I do pay my cards in full, but I personally like using them because I think if you're disciplined, it's something good to have. And, I'm in a big city. If you're carrying cash to the store and you lose it, it's gone. You lose your card, you go turn it off, and, that's it. You're done. And the credit in those cards are, you're going to have some type of protection with that, where with cash, once it's gone, it's gone.
Right. Yeah. I'm a fan of using credit cards when you can pay them off in full. But I think that the gamification of being able to use credit cards to pay for travel is super duper awesome. But yes, Costco, I did do that when I took my kids to Disney World, and Costco hands down had the best prices. So I'm a big fan of using Costco Travel as well. So the last thing I want to talk about, Erin, is for those people considering going into nursing, what advice would you have for them?
I think, getting into a hospital early if you can, even if it's just answering phones, being a unit clerk, being, a nursing assistant, because that is like your foot in the door. Once you get in there and you're already in it, first of all, you're going to see maybe you love it and maybe you don't. If you're already in it and like, I hate this or I don't like blood and guts and all these kind of things, then maybe it's not for you. Get out of it before you spend all your time and money on it. Or if you love it, be that person who, is making a difference, because it's going to make a difference for you getting a job down the road. I mean, for me, every boss I've had has recommended me to my next boss. So every boss I've had, all the way from phlebotomy, telemetry, to labor and delivery, to my other labor and delivery unit, to back, has always given me good marks and regards. And it's like, if you're putting it out there that, hey, you're a really hard worker and you're a nursing assistant, they're going to tell you, and then you're going to have that opportunity to, get a job later, whether it's at that hospital or not. But, that speaks volumes to your hiring bosses that you've already worked in the field. And I will tell you right now, I graduated with honors, not that anybody cares, but I think part of that was, I had a good grasp on what was going on, because my first job at my employer was in the emergency room, and I worked for the lab, and I was a phlebotomist. So I had a pretty good grasp on like basic triage, what labs you would order, what values to expect, those kind of things. And I will tell you, I didn't necessarily realize it at the time, but it made nursing school much easier for me, because I already was in the industry. I was already doing part of the work. And so it made nursing school that much easier, because I was already familiar with the lingo.
That makes so much sense. And I don't think I ever told you this, but I actually got my phlebotomy license before I went to nursing school too. And for the life of me, all I wanted to do was be a phlebotomist while I was about to apply for nursing school. But nobody would hire me because I already had my master's degree. So they wanted me to work in different capacities. But man, I was really looking forward to being a phlebotomist just so I can get my clinical skills, because when I went to nursing school, it was coming off of after being in healthcare administration for so long. But man, I could see that value. And I was like, if I could just get some skills to help me get through nursing school, I would be ahead of the pack. But it never happened. But everything.
Well, I will be honest, one of the crucial factors of my hiring, because I grew up in the Fresno area, that came up in my interview at age 20 with my same employer, is I'm bilingual. So I was a Spanish major before I was a nurse. And so that was a big part of hiring. And so I will tell you that I always encourage people, if they can, to learn another language. And if you're in California, I highly recommend Spanish, because first of all, you're going to use it. It's super rewarding when you get to help people who no one else can help. And it obviously helped me get a job. I was very young when I came to work at that hospital, and being bilingual was a huge factor in my getting hired over other candidates.
I love it. And it's just like setting yourself up for success. And it did not take that much. I mean, I think it's amazing that you understood the value of speaking another language, and then how that just helped you. And I'm sure it helps you now. I mean, my labor and delivery Spanish is on point, Erin. So I might not be.
Well, I think everybody who does what we do is like, you better know. Yeah. In our department, you better have the basics down. And so it's definitely helpful. And so I actually send my kids to a dual language immersion school so that they learn Spanish at a young age. And they've been dual language immersion since kindergarten, because I'm like, you have to know this, whether you become nurses or not. It's just a helpful language to have. And when you honestly can help people and you speak their language, it is so rewarding. And then for me, it really broadens your horizons. You go to Mexico, you go on vacation, and my husband and I are like, yeah, let's go look at real estate in another country, because I speak the language and I can go talk to people and hang out and totally understand what's going on. And it's pretty amazing.
I love it. And part of my journey and what I want to expose my kids to is actually living abroad in different countries and learning different languages and actually going to international schools. So I totally value them learning other languages and me being exposed and learning to other languages, because I feel like it opens the world up to you too. So yeah, Erin, this has all been great, and you have dropped so many gems, and I'm just so glad. Just for my own personal reasons that we got to sit down and talk, and I got to kind of dive into your journey, but also to share you with the Nurses on Fire community at large. And because you have been such an impactful member of my group in the financially intentional community from the beginning. And so I just want to say thank you so much. I'm super grateful for you. I don't take it lightly that you hung around with me for so long. I appreciate you.
No, I am super grateful to be here. Like I've been, obviously longtime follower, reading the blog, always, on the Facebook group. It obviously got a lot out of it. And it's definitely rewarding to, be involved in that group and kind of see how everyone's doing and that, you're not alone with your goals and those kind of things. And so it's been an amazing, journey to watch. And obviously seeing you kind of really come up. I mean, and they on Forbes, I'm like, I know her. And so, it's kind of I'm like fangirl moment. So, I'm super, super excited to, be here. And obviously I think what I'm excited about is like, I'm a regular person. Like I am not, an accountant. I am not a real estate agent. You can be a regular person and still go out there and crush it and smash your goals. And, you don't have to be someone who has a degree in finance to do well with finances.
Yes. And me too. I'm a regular person too. I'm just a labor and delivery nurse too. But I think like a lot of it is that people needed to hear my story. And I think it's kind of selfish to keep your testimonies to yourself. Even if you think that you're just a regular person, the lessons that you have acquired and the things that you have accomplished, people need to hear about. And so that's why I'm super excited that they get to hear it from you, Erin. So thank you so much. I am really honored to have Erin as a member of the Financially Intentional community. She has truly been an invaluable member of the group. She has learned and grown alongside of me as I'm going on this journey as well. And I am excited to see how her real estate empire turns out. So Erin is a labor and delivery nurse just like me, but she didn't go into massive amounts of debt pursuing her degree. She actually got her degree paid for. So for anyone who's interested in going into nursing, there are several ways to get it done.
Lesson number 1.
Erin started out working as a phlebotomist, but was able to get her job to put her through nursing school.
So I'd actually completed all of my prereqs to be a teacher. And I got a job at a hospital that had a program where if you finished your prereqs, they would drop you into the RN program, pay for it, and hire you afterwards. And this was about 5 hospitals in the Fresno area did this, and it was called the Paradigm Program.
Lesson number 2.
Oftentimes, we think that we have to make a certain amount of money before we can take control of our finances. But ultimately, it's really that decision to take control of your finances that really can bring you more money and more financial success.
Managing your finances is so critical to your mental health and your marital health, like so critical. And I really didn't realize that because I was just really young and didn't even know what I was doing. I was making enough money, but I just was not managing it correctly. So it was like not the income issue, it was an issue of money management on our end.
Lesson number 3.
We've all heard the statistic that our issues with your finances is the leading cause for divorce. That's why I think Erin is genius for pioneering in her family the Sink and Slay budgeting meetings.
We have actual budget meetings every week that we call Sink and Slay. And so we sit down and we have what we call a weekly sync meeting. And we literally talk about all the things, whether it's scheduling. My husband's in the military. He may have to leave at any time. What does he have on deck? What's coming on that he knows about so I can plan for childcare? And then what's our plan for our finances? Are we planning a big vacation? What do we need to set aside in savings? What's going on with our savings? What purchases are we planning? And we do that on a weekly basis, and it truly has brought us closer together as a married couple. I don't think our marriage has been in this good of health in a really long time. Truly, it's made a world of difference.
Hey guys, I'm super excited to announce that I'll be speaking at the first annual Financial Freedom Summit, and I want to meet you there. It's going down May 1st through 3rd, 2020 in St. Louis. So if you're ready to kick your finances in gear, the mission of the summit is simple: to help you reach the next level in your financial journey, no matter where you are. Whether you're thousands in debt, building your first budget, saving 6 months of expenses, or close to financial independence, there's something for you at this event. What's even better is that there'll be 50 plus other financial experts for you to learn from, including my finance besties, Jamila from Journey to Launch and Kirsten and Julian from Rich and Regular. They'll be experts covering nearly every personal finance topic. This is your chance to connect with thousands of other people who have the same interests, goals, and philosophies as you. Not just that, but I'd love to meet you as well. So tickets are going fast, meaning that prices are going to increase soon. I want to make sure you get the biggest bang for your buck. Better yet, you can use a special discount code to get an even lower price. So use FREEDOM at checkout for 20% off your ticket. That's FREEDOM at checkout. Seriously, y'all, I think this event is going to be life-changing for so many people. I'm super honored to be part of it. So for more information on the first annual Financial Freedom Summit, click the link in the show notes, and don't forget to use the code FREEDOM at checkout.
You've been listening to Nurses on Fire. If you want to learn more about me or my guests, check out our show notes page. If you found value, please support our show by supporting our sponsors and affiliate, also listed in the show notes. If you like what you're hearing, we'd love for you to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, or whatever podcast app you're using to stream this show. You guys, tell all the nurses in your life to subscribe. And if you know a nurse with a compelling money story and would like me to feature them, shoot me an email at Naseema@financiallyintentional.com. All right, y'all. Much love and keep them fires blazing.
Thank you for listening to my mommy's podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye. Bye.